Good morning, Rabbi Isai. Live in Lincolnwood. Rabbi Isai, we're holding on the bottom of the Tzadik Ches Amud Beis. Can you believe it? We're in Bein HaZmanim, and we're holding mamash on the daf. It's unbelievable. We're all familiar with the concept of Batel B'Shishim. Batel B'Shishim. And that's our sugya here. This is where it originates, Batel B'Shishim. And we saw yesterday a phenomenal machloikas. Is it Batel B'Shishim or Batel B'Meah? Meaning, if you have, let's call this something treif. This cup is treif and it falls into chont. If you have 60 cups like this that are kosher, you're allowed to eat the chont even though one of the cups in it is completely treif. The other man, Omar, says if 100 cups fall, you need a lot more, which is very interesting, as the Gemara is going to point out that in the Torah it says, Achri Rabim Lahatos. All you need in hechsher and all these things is the majority. Majority is the smallest amount. It means 51% versus 49. 51 versus 50 even. You have 51 apples that are kosher, 50 apples that are not kosher. Boom, you can eat it. It's batel b'roiv. So this concept of saying batel b'shish means 60 times the amount is like what? It's like almost outrageous. But that's what we learn. Where do we learn it from? So to remind the Olam, we learn it from the foreleg of a Nazir. Meaning, the Nazir, when he finishes with this whole process, and they cut his hair, and they shave, it's a whole thing. They shave his hair, they put the hair underneath the pot of the shlamim. So one of the things they do is they cut the front right leg, hand of the animal, and they give that to the kohen as a gift. That, plus the other stuff that they usually give. But here's something special. The Zraya, it's called. What do they do with it? They cook that leg together with the entire animal. Who eats the entire animal? The owner, the Nazir. But wait a minute, how could he eat it? The leg belongs to the kohen. Kohen food seeps into the rest of the animal as they're cooking the rest of the animal. You're Yisrael, you're not allowed to eat the kohen's food. You're not allowed to eat truma. This is the Raisa. Chiyav Misa, the whole thing. How are you eating the leg? Because the Torah is telling you that's not a problem. You have 60 times the amount of animal, this giant animal, more than the leg. Every animal has 60 times the amount. The other man, the Omer says, no, the animal has 100 times the amount. So what's the machlokes? So go measure it. No. One man, the Omer says, I only measure the meat part of the leg. And the meat part versus the rest of the meat in the animal is 100 to 1. The other man says, no, you got to measure everything, the bones, the sinews. That's only 60. I'll show you real quickly what we showed yesterday to get you back into it, because you don't really need to see it, but it's gishmak. I thought it was very cool. So first of all, you have this. We had a machloikas. If he puts the foreleg in first, he cuts off the foreleg, but then he puts the entire body in. And this is a problem because that entire goat is being cooked together with the foreleg, and the foreleg is kohen's food. So you see Batel B'Shishim. Another man says, no, you put the whole animal in, only later on do you cut it. But here's the cool video. I really enjoyed this part, where you see the foreleg here in blue, and then it shows you how the animal 60 times that foreleg. So then the Gemara asked the question. Here's the Gemara if you don't want to look in. Umi yalfino mina. How could you learn to the rest of the Torah this concept of Batel B'Shishim from Zeraya, the foreleg of a Nazir? Vatanya zehu heter haba mechlal iser. That's the whole question. The word zehu. It says in the Brisa, this is a special halacha by a Nazir. How could you learn it out to the rest of the Torah? So zehu lemute mai. What does Zehu come to teach us? What is it coming to exclude? It isn't coming to exclude the rest of the Torah? No. 3 answers. I'm going to go through all 3 answers, but first let's do answer number 2. That's where we're holding. Rav Amar. In other words, what we're trying to address, what is so special about the Zraya of the Nazir that we don't have in the rest of the Torah? Rav Amar le'nitzrucha elo letam ki'ikr. The idea that something that gives off flavor is something in kachim. When it comes to a carbon, you cannot be mevatel it. Over here, you see the idea by the carbon of a nazir, the leg of the nazir, you are mevatel. It's just flavor. Tam keker. Because usually you have an orange, which gets mixed in with another 50 oranges, another 100 oranges. We say the 100 are mevatel the one. It's a full orange and 100 oranges. But now we're not talking about an orange. We're talking about the flavor that comes out of meat. That's tam. That's flavor. And flavor you can't be mevatel. Over here we are mevatel it. That's the chiddush. Usually flavor is also when it comes to korbanos. That is the chiddush. That's chiddush number 2. Ask the Gemara. So now we're doing what we call a freebie. We had this exact language yesterday, word for word, just on Abaye's teretz. Now we're doing it on Rava's teretz. But once you see that flavor is not a big deal by a carbon nazar, so let's use that idea by all karbanos. Why can't I learn that tam is not ke'ikr by other karbanos? Says Gemara, Gali Rachmano Gabi Chatas, Choyle Sheyiga B'Bsar Yigdosh. No, there's a pasuk by carbon chatas that flavor imparted never becomes bottled. How do I see it? It says Kol Sheyiga B'Bsar Yigdosh. Whatever touches the carbon chatas becomes kadosh. Lios Kamoya becomes exactly like a chatas. So you hear this, you have a carbon shlomim, which is a lighter type of carbon, touches a carbon chatas, becomes like a carbon chatas, for the good and for the bad. In other words, if the carbon chatas is possible, the shlomim becomes possible. If the carbon chatas is not possible, then the shlomim becomes like a chatas. What does that mean? That if you try to eat the shlomim, usually you get 2 days to eat a shlomim, a chatas you only get 1 day. If the shlomim touches the chatas, just touches it, boom, becomes like a chatas, you can only eat it for 1 day. Why? Because it imparted the flavor, and you cannot get rid of flavor. Flavor is not batal b'shishim. Oh. So you know what the question is, the same question we had yesterday. We have on the one hand the pasuk of chatas that tells us flavor you cannot get rid of. But we have the other pasuk. We have the pasuk by the nazir, the zraya, that you could get rid of flavor. So why do we always say we go with the chatas and not like the nazir? Why did you pick the chatas? You only get 1 day to eat it. Why did you decide to learn from a chatas and not from the nazir and say that you could get rid of flavor? Says the Gemara, like we said yesterday, why is zraya of a nazir chiddush? Because the Torah is telling you to put the foreleg into a pot together with a giant animal, and don't worry, it will be batal b'roiv. You can't be mevatel b'roiv something on purpose. You can't take a piece of treif fat from an animal and put it into your child and tell your wife, don't worry about it. I learned in Daf Yomi that's batal b'shishim. It's okay. You can't do that. That's on purpose. On purpose, you don't do that. If by mistake a piece of fat fell off the shelf into your child, and you're horrified, you run to the Rav will tell you, okay, it's fine, it's batal b'roiv. You can't go and put it in there. But the Torah is telling you, put it into the pot. Take the foreleg, put it into the pot with a big piece of meat of the rest of the animal, and it'll be batal in 60, or batal in 100. How do you do that? So it's a chiddush. Ask the Gemara, the same question we had yesterday. What are you telling me? You're telling me that I cannot learn the idea of tam ki'ikr from the nazir carbon because it's a massive chiddush. So how we started off the whole shir saying that there's a machloikis, is it batal b'shishim or batal b'meya? Is it 60 or 100? And where are you learning from? Where does it originate, the whole thing? From the nazir. Wait a minute, nazir is a chiddush. You can't learn anything from a chiddush. So the Gemara, you're right. We're trying just to make a chumrah here. And a chumrah is not a big deal. Learn from a chiddush, learn from not a chiddush. Not. To make chumrahs is easy. Why? What does the pasuk tell us? We always go by the majority. And you want to say it's not the majority, you're going to go times it by 60, which is a tremendous amount. That's a tremendous chumrah, meaning up until 60, everything below 60 is all treif. So for chumrah, I can learn from the zraya. This is Givaldic. Check this out. If you were here with us, so you remember the whole sugya of the Ben Pekua, the mother that has a fetus inside her stomach, you shech the mother, you get allowed to eat the fetus. Now what happens if it sticks its hand out? You see, Akiva, you got to look at these charts here. The animal sticks its hand out, and then somebody comes and cuts it off. So the Gemara tells us that at the spot of the cut, even the part of the animal that's inside the body, and you're going to be able to eat it without shechita, but the area that was cut, that you can't eat. The place of the cut, of the zroya, where you cut the foreleg away from the rest of the ram, that place you would think is not, you're not allowed to eat it. The Yisrael shouldn't eat it. It's considered that of the kohen. Just like in the stomach of the animal, the place that you cut is considered like the like a place that you're not allowed to eat. So maybe in the foreleg also you can't eat the place that was cut. Usually you say that the area of the cut you're not allowed to eat. It's like the Ever Menachai of a cut when you chop off the hand of an animal. But by Zroya, the foreleg of a Nazir, you're allowed to eat the area of the cut. So check this out, to do a Chazarah of all three answers of the Gemara. What's the Chiddush by the Zroya of the Nazir? Here you have the Zroya cooking together with the rest of the meat of the animal. What's the problem? The problem is that the meat, the rest of the aisle is for Yisrael, and the Zroya is for a Kohen. So Abaye says, the Chiddush is that min b'minoi, usually it's the meat and meat. And meat and meat, one should not be able to be mevatel the other, according to Rabbi Yehuda. When you have the same type, over here it is, we saw the answer of Rava, the tam kicker, over here it imparts flavor, and by kachim, flavor is not batel, over here it is. And then finally we have Ravina who says that the area of the cut, you're allowed to eat. Okay? He did it well. The area of the shara aisle, it's the part of that the Yisrael eats, but it has the area of the cut. And the zroya is for the kohen, so maybe I would think that the area of the cut is also of the kohen. Komashmalan, you're allowed to eat it. Yisrael could eat the area of the cut. Okay? So now we move on to the next sugya. Yosef Ravdimi v'ko amar lo shmaita. Ravdimi said over this halacha of that you need 100 times the amount of kosher. So we had a machlokes. Is it 60 or 100? So he said over the 100 one. He says, Abaye, where did you get the 100? I'm going to show you a place where it says 60. It doesn't say mefurish, but you can be medayik, it means 60. Let me just say about peh. It doesn't say 60, but we know it's not 100. So what is it? So the Gemara says, it's 101 versus 100, not 60. It still doesn't say anywhere 60. So let's see inside. Do we see anywhere else this idea, the concept of batal b'100? Vatnan, lamra amru, kol mechametz umetabel umedamea lahachmir. It's easy stuff. I'm telling you right now, easy sugya, but we have words that cause people to get nervous. As soon as you say the word min b'minoi, people get nervous. But what does min b'minoi mean? It means meat and meat, blood and blood. Eggs and eggs. That's min b'minoi. Min b'sheina means eggs with meat. Blood with, I don't know what, something else. So it says like this. When it comes to truma, here, there's a stam to get you into the mood. Truma. If you have a piece of sa'ir, a piece of, how do you say, yeast, yeah? Like a yeast. Of truma that falls into chullin. Truma is the part that the kohen gets. Kohen gets 2% of everything. His 2% fell into the chullin, into the regular Yisrael stuff. That 2% became yeast. So it's batal beh. We're going to see in a second. That's why he made it like go crazy. It's 100 times the amount. So he says, kol ha-mechametz, if it's this yeast of truma, umetabel, and you have spices. Spices are very dangerous because, dangerous I mean in terms of kashrus, they give a lot of flavor. Small amount, a lot of flavor. Umedameya, let's say you have a bunch of oranges of truma that fall into thousands, let's say, of chullin, lahachmir, min b'minoi. When it's the same So Rabbi said, let's remember this. What's worse, min b'minoi or min b'sheinei minoi? What's worse? What's harder to make kosher? The same item mixed with the same item, or two different items? Min b'minoi is much harder. How do I know? Look, Rabbi Yehuda says min b'minoi is never bottled. Never. We brought a raya yesterday from the blood on Yom Kippur, remember? There's a lot of cow blood and the bull blood, and there's very little goat blood, and the kohen mixes it together, and yet the Torah calls it the blood of the soyer. It's not bottled. So check it out, it's very simple. When you have min b'minoi, when you have the same type of item of truma mixing in with chullin, you gotta go to chumrah. It's the worst thing that could be, so you go to chumrah. But if I want to do a kula or sometimes a chumrah, min b'sheinei minoi. And the Gemara is going to explain everything. It's very simple. When it's two different items, then sometimes it can be makel also. Sometimes it'll be machmer, sometimes it'll be makel. Okay, it's Uktari Sefer, and it says at the end of it, what's this? This is what we just mentioned. How do you see a kula? Where do you see a kula of two different items? Grisin shenis bashlu imho adashim. You're making a chol, the type of a bean. It's truma, and it got cooked in with adashim, with lentils, another type of a legume, like a bean. But it's two different minim, right? It's min b'sheinei minoi. Split bean and lentils are min b'sheinei, two different minim. So if it gives over a flavor, even if you have 101 times the amount, it doesn't matter. It gives a flavor. We saw the Rashi the other day that if you could taste the treif, you could taste the problem, then it doesn't matter how many times you have over there. You can have batal b'shishim, batal b'meya. It doesn't work because I can still taste the flavor. We had like the hot pepper that fell into, one hot pepper falls into a tafshel, it's finished. Even 1,000, you can still taste it. So even if bein yeshmem lahalis b'mevechot, bein elam lahalis b'mevechot, aser, it makes the whole tafshel aser. Ein bei b'nois and tam, but if it doesn't give off flavor, bein yeshmem lahalis b'mevechot, bein ein lahalis b'mevechot, even if you have less than 101 mutter. Wait a minute, so let's stop here. Something that doesn't give off flavor, and you have less than 101 times the amount, it's kosher. How many times the amount do you have? 1, 2, 5, you tell me. It's either 60 or 100. Those are the only two numbers that we know. And it said it's not 100. So what is it? It says 60. So says Abaya here, I see Mefurish the concept of 60, not 100. And what's the Gemara going to answer? No. It's 101 and 100. I don't have 101, but I have 100. That's what the Gemara is going to answer. Because it doesn't say the word 60 here. The last line. If it doesn't have 101, what does it have? Lav b'shishim? Isn't it 60? So if you don't have 101, so what do you have? You have 100, it's good. So just a short little sugya here of how could it be 101? It could be 100. It should be 60. Well, wait a minute. You can't. The reisha and the sefer have to be different numbers. And why? And the reisha is the more machmer, because Yosef already told us that what's the worst thing that could possibly be? Min b'minoi, when it's the same thing. And that's the reisha. We're talking about the same thing, and the same thing is the 100. So when it's not the same thing, it's less than 100. The worst, most chomer is the same item, min b'minoi. And that you need 100 to 1 ratio. So now let's go down, let's take it down a step. Less chomer is min b'sheinei minoi. And min b'sheinei minoi should be less than 100. So then, why are you telling me now that min b'sheinei minoi is 100, identical to the ratio, which is the worst of the worst, min b'minoi, which is 100. But min the ratio b'meyavi, save b'shishim. It must go down a level to 60. Because in the ratio it said, what's the chumrah of doing the two foods that are identical? Here, it's wheat. Truma, the leavening agent, that's what it is. Leavening agent of this bread was truma, fell into the dough of chullin, and it has enough leavening agent to make it rise. Even if it has 101 times the amount, it's still also. Why? Because it gives it's mechametz. Now, if it doesn't have 101, so what does it have? It doesn't even have 101, so even if it doesn't have enough to make it rise and make it chametz, it's still also. So if it doesn't have 101, what does it have? It has 100. That's the ratio. So the ratio is talking about 100. So then the seifa, which is much less of an isser because it's min b'sheni min. It's two different. It's not wheat and wheat. It's wheat and barley. Let's say. So you have to take it down a level. It can't be the same amount. It can't be 100, just like the ratio. Ratio is b'meya. How can it be? Lo ratio b'meya v'chad v'seifa b'meya. That's the whole difference. It's a little bit of a letdown. You think like, wow, we're going to drop down a lot. No, the ratio is 101 because it's the big chumrah. It's min b'mina. If it's min b'sheni mina, 100 is enough. By the way, how do you get to 100 and 101? If a person has fruit, he has 100 fruit, he must give 2 of them to the kohen, that's called truma, and 10 of them to the Levi. So in other words, 10% of the entire produce you give to the Levi. And the Levi goes ahead and gives 10% of what he got to the kohen. That's trumas meiser. How much is that? 1% of the entire thing. Why? Let's do the math. He took 10 apples out of 100, gave it to the Levi, and the Levi takes 10% of what he got and gives to the kohen, which is 1 apple out of the 10. So that 1 apple represents 1% of the entire initial thing. And the Torah says over there some sort of lashon about being mevatel, whatever. So you see the idea of 1 in 100. The 1 to the 100. Here, let me just show you the video. Is he gives 10 to the Levi, and the Levi is going to take from his 10 apples and give 1 to the kohen. So that 1 apple represents 1 out of 100, and that's where you see the idea of bittul. So they ask, then where do you get the 101? There's a whole bunch of answers. Okay, ask the Gemara. Stop a question. If this leavening agent, it could create chametz. So how come it doesn't become batel in 101? It says Rashi over here. Could it be that powerful? It's that powerful that it overcomes 101 times its amount. Says the Gemara. Ishtik. He didn't know what to answer. So he said, why are you being quiet? Maybe leavening agent is very powerful, especially this particular one, that it's able to overcome, and you could taste it even in 101 times the amount. So you're right, you might be right, you just reminded me something. Not everything, not every food has the same power. You need 200 to overcome the brine of fish. And to get the reaper, you need 2 million to overcome it. It's not dak tame tziroi aser. If you have brine of a non-kosher fish, listen to this. Revi'is b'sa'asayim. You hear this? 1 revi'is in 2 saw. So that's the end of the sugya. Only for those who want to be entertained and like math, I'll show you the cheshbon. But otherwise, you don't have to know this, really, because a lot of people get nervous from these numbers. And once you say, Ask Levi Goidu, it's just cool. I'll say it real quickly. Ask Levi Goidu. You look on top, the samach stands for the saw. How many kav? The next one is a kav. Saw, kav, lug. You see on top, samach, kuf, labet. Saw, kav, lug. How many kav are in each saw? You go to the bottom of it, 6. How many lug are in each kav? You go to between the kav and the lug, 4. So it goes like this. In every saw, you have 6 kav. In every kav, you have 4 lug. So how many lug do you have in every saw? 4 times 6. How much is 4 times 6? 24. How do I know? Because 2 times 6 is 12. So 4 times 6 is 24. Now, we're talking about 2 saw. So 2 times 24 is how much? 48. Even in Panovich we knew that, 48. How many quarters are there in 48? 48 times 4. So I'll tell you how you do it in Panovich. It's very, very simple. You pretend 48 is 50, and you do 4 times 50. It's how much? 200. But it's not really 50. You have to take off 2 from every 50. So you have to take off 8. 8 minus 200 is 192. Oh, so that's what he says over here. It's a revius, a quarter in Sasayim, in 200, in 198, in 192. How do we mevatel this tzir, this brine? It's 1/4 in 192. 192 times the amount. In other words, 200 times the amount. 192 is close enough to 200. So here I see that the brine, you need 200. Okay, we're done with that. You don't have to know more math. I just thought maybe you'd want to hear the cheshbon. Ask the Gemara a bomb question. What do you want to do? You want to be mevatel the tzir, the brine of a fish, in fish. But guess what? That's Rabbi Yehuda. How could Rabbi Yehuda say such a thing? Rabbi Yehuda is famous for saying, Yosef, you said this before, min b'minoi loy batal, even 1,000, you can't be mevatel. Forget 200, 1,000 is not batal. So how could you ever be mevatel the tzir, the brine of a fish? Says the Gemara, Shani tzir, I have a gevaldik video to show you. Shani tzir, the brine, the zeya ba'almahu. It's just sweat, meaning, how do you get this tzir? You pour some salt on it. You know, see in the video, he takes a salt spray, he goes, instead of putting on himself suntan lotion, he puts, it says on it, it looks like a suntan lotion bottle. He goes, I just want to explain what the video is. It took me 2 times to chap what's flying. So he sprays on himself salt. That causes him to sweat. But that sweat is not fish. When a human being sweats, is that human flesh? No, it's a sweat. It's not part of his body. You don't count it as part of a fish.
אוי, אני נורא מתנצל. עכשיו זה לא כשר.
רביעית בסתיים, לוג 4, קו 16, סע 96, וכאן יש לי יותר.
Okay. Zak the Gemara. We're almost done here. New sugya. We spoke about the Gidra Nasha. You cooked it in the thigh. The thigh is something that you're allowed to eat. The Gidra Nasha is awesome in a Torah to eat. Does the flavor of the Gidra Nasha impart Isser into the rest of the meat? Depends how much meat the Mishnah says. The Mishnah says it's almost complicated. You pretend that the Gidra Nasha is meat, and how much meat do you need to impart flavor to a lefes? How do you say lefes? Turnip, no?
Yeah, turnip.
You pretend that this Gidra Nasha, this sinew, is actually meat, and then how much meat do you need to impart flavor to the turnip? What part of the turnip are we talking about? Omer Avuna. Kesim Sharin, Omer Avuna, Kibasa Barasha Lefatos. So says Rashi, we're not talking about the actual turnip. We're talking about the leaves coming out of the turnip. Those are much sweeter than the actual turnip, and therefore you need much more meat to give it flavor. And here, that's it. From here to the bottom of the Amud is mamish, like a one idea. The what? Masnisin the loy kaitana. The Mishnah that tells you that you have to have more meat, less meat, that's because that Tana holds that there's flavor in the Gidra Nasha. And that's why I need X amount of meat to overcome that flavor. Let's say there's 0 flavor in the Gidra Nasha. What would be the halacha? 0 flavor in the Gidra Nasha. And you cooked meat with the Gidra Nasha. What would happen? Nothing. You take the Gidra Nasha, throw it into the garbage, and eat it. Nothing happened. But there is a mandama that says that Gidra Nasha doesn't have a flavor. In fact, we paskin that Gidra Nasha doesn't have a flavor. So our whole Mishnah is not like the halacha. Sorry. Masisin like Yatana the sign Rabbi Shmuel ben Rabbi Yochanan ben Berka Omer. Rabbi Shmuel, the son of Rabbi Yochanan ben Berka, says, "Ein begidim ben tam." The Gidra Nasha, the sciatic nerve, doesn't have any flavor at all, and therefore you just throw it out after you cooked it, and you can eat the meat as long as you don't eat the Gidra Nasha. But before you go around thinking that the Gidra Nasha, the halacha, doesn't have flavor, and you can cook it with the Gidra Nasha, so you need to see the last Rashi I'm going to show you. Super important. Don't paskin anything based on Daf Yomi Shiurim. Masiz Le'yoy said, So somebody came to Reb Chanina. Somebody came to ask a shayla by Reb Chanina. And Rabbi Yehuda bar Zvina was hiding by the door. Kinofek, whoever came out to ask the question, he comes out. Omar lei, my Omar lach. So Rabbi Yehuda bar Zvina says, "No, what did he passing about? You get anasha." Omar lei, shari nahalei. He said it's okay. Omar lei, hadar aylil kamei. Do me a favor, go back, ask him again. So he went back to ask Rabbi Chanina. Omar, so Rabbi Chanina said, "Man hayde kometzarli. Who's hiding by the door and is telling you to come back in? He's giving me pain. Tell the guy that's standing by the door, the person, the Tana, whoever it is that's standing by the door. I hold like the man, and this is how we pass on halacha. There's no flavor imparted by the gid, and therefore, since you cooked it with the gid, it doesn't make a difference. Just throw out the gid and eat the meat. He sent him to Rabbi Zubachal. The Mori Balei Teira. He said, listen, you have a problem with the Gid Anasha? Go to Rabbi Zubachal. He's Mekel. He holds his aim, but Gidim Benois and Tam. And he got this not from Stam, from Yeshua ben Levi. It's unbelievable. It's enough. The reason why he sent him to Rabbi Zubachal, because Rabbi Ami himself didn't hold of this halacha. But Yishano, says the Gemara, V'hilchasa ein begidim benois and tam. Everything we learned in the Mishnah, all these sugis that we had about a gid, and how much do you need meat to overcome the flavor? It's only because you hold the gid has a flavor. But we paskin, look at that gimel on the bottom, right there. Ein begidim benois and tam. This is how we paskin. That gid anasha does not impart flavor. So therefore, if you cook it with a gid, it's not a problem. But says Rashi, there is a problem. It doesn't matter how you cooked it, how you roasted it, how you salted it. Mashlichai, you just toss away the gid anasha. Umutter, and you can eat the meat. Says Rashi, v'dafka boy, only the gid anasha. Avashamnoi. But what about the little piece of fat that I showed you in the video? The Rebbe Amitai ben David showed there's a little piece of fat right above the gid anasha, touching the gid anasha. If you left that in, now you're in trouble. Because that, of course, gives off flavor. Fat gives flavor. Sinews don't give off flavor, according to this. And if you didn't get rid of the fat, oyser. So don't tell people, you know the halacha, you learned in Daf Yomi, that ain't beginning benois and tam. And so what if you cooked it? It's not a problem. Yeah, if you cooked the gid anasha alone, it's not a problem. But if you forgot to remove the little fat that's on top of the gid anasha, it's a second problem of fat that's aser. Rabbi Sai, have a wonderful day.
Merit the schus of spreading Torah throughout the world. Sponsor a shir today. MDYsponsor.com or sponsor at MDY.com.